Welcome to Practice Mastery, your call to greatness, an experts interview show for chiropractors. Are you a chiropractor? Young or old, you're going to learn and be inspired by our impressive list of international chiropractors and guest expert interviews. So imagine you're sitting in the front row of an event, VIP seating, listening and learning from some of the best chiropractors, coaches, and mentors today in our industry. I promise you, you won't want to miss a single episode of this show. I'm your host, Dr. Alan Chong, the Spine Doctor, a practicing chiropractor for over 33 years and owner of 3 clinics here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. My weekly special guests will share with you their very best secrets to their own success. They've worked hard, they've lived it, and now they're telling their own story on Practice Mastery. Inspiring stories show and teach us lessons, right? How great is it when you hear a story and you can glean something and apply it to your own life? Well, that's what this podcast is all about. You can see and achieve more in your own personal life and professional practice by learning from other people's stories. That's why I created this show, Practice Mastery. My aim is to give you a dynamic and entertaining interview style. I want to allow you to just sit back and enjoy every moment as you discover the gems of wisdom found with each and every podcast guest and episode that you listen to. I realize that you're on a journey too, just like me. That journey is to your own success and for your practice mastery. Now, if that's not for you, that's okay too, because either way, when you listen to this podcast, you're going to learn from some of the industry's greatest influencers, as well as everyday chiropractors who have gone through a lot. I realize that you're on a journey, and this podcast will allow you to learn from some of the masters in chiropractic practice, marketing, and business. My hope today is that you'll be inspired and get a little nudge on that right path to your greatest future. So are you ready? Here's my story. How did I get here? Well, I have a passion for helping people. Ever since I was a little kid, I knew I wanted to help people. It's just a matter of what path I would take to discover that and to become a chiropractor. So as a chiropractor, I started my career as green as any of you. Green as green, fresh out of college. I was very fortunate, though, to learn through my early mistakes, first doing locums for a few months, and then I ended up within a year owning 2 chiropractic clinics. My most important lesson, take my profession seriously. Because when I was first out of college, I think like most, was a little cocky. I'm a doctor now. I'm a chiropractor. I know a lot and no one's going to tell me what to do. So I quickly realized as I acquired 2 clinics within my first little over a year of practice, I ended up owning 2 clinics here in Calgary, Canada. Now, that's not an easy feat, nor is an easy task, nor do I recommend that to most people. But if it sounds familiar that you're fresh out of college and you kind of got this thing figured out, you soon realize in practice that you haven't got this thing figured out. And so when I first started, I worked 50 plus hours a week. No kidding, 50 plus hours. But I was reasonably successful, meaning, yes, I paid off all my student loans and clinic loans within my first 4 years of practice. I got married, traveled the world, and even took 3.5 weeks off to travel Europe with just being 2 years out of practice. However, fast forward, the world has changed a lot in 30 years. I was young, I was naive, and didn't have any practice mastery, and I'm not afraid to admit that. When I first came out, of course, when you first come out of college, you most people can't claim practice mastery. So what is practice mastery to me? Practice mastery is being able to have great hands to as a chiropractor to know that I'm more than competent, that I'm very good with patients and client management, and also in this case as a clinic owner that I've achieved a degree of mastery in the business side of chiropractic. Now, all those things said, it really, I'm still learning. I'm still seeking further mastery. So just because had a colleague of mine mention to me, yeah, at our time in practice, we're now considered some of the masters in our province here. And I thought about it and I said, Dr. Gary, I think you're right. I didn't really see it that way or necessarily acknowledge that. And since then, I certainly have embraced that in launching this podcast. So back then, I can honestly say that I was full of it. My dreams for practice success seemed to be changing every week. All of these different ways to practice. Practice management gurus told me different ways of doing things. I would try them for a while. Sometimes succeed, most of the time fail because my heart wasn't really in it. So all these practices and procedures seemed also very different. Some of the practices I couldn't even agree with. I didn't feel right. You ever felt that? You're just told to do something by a coach or practice management group, and you say, well, you just follow along because everybody else seems to be following along and they've done it, so I'll do it. But no judgment here. But if it doesn't feel right, I really do know that in my heart of hearts, that it's probably there's something going on, whether it needs to be tweaked or it actually needs to be scrapped, because ultimately you have to feel right about practice to even go towards mastery. Otherwise, you, like me, I was full of it. And so practices and procedures don't make mastery, in my opinion. However, they can be a very important part of mastery to have policies and procedures in place, checklists, etc. So when you don't feel like you in practice, then it's very difficult to achieve a level of mastery. So I guess I'm making a case for practice mastery. If that's a new term for you, then I really encourage you to think about it and listen on. In this podcast, I'm going to explain more of what that means to me. So ultimately, many of these procedures didn't work in my practice. Why? Because there was a clear disconnect with my core values of honesty, integrity, and my pursuit of ongoing excellence. So some of these things just didn't feel right. And if they don't feel right to you, your heart is telling you something. Remember that. That's probably not right for you. So don't you think that's a great thing? We have a heart checkup, if you will, to give us some idea of whether we're on the right track to personal mastery and professional mastery. So I tried a lot of different ways to practice. So for many years, what it resulted in is I wasn't truly happy or satisfied with my career and with my practice. I was searching. And about 15 years ago, I was at a crossroads. I definitely knew and came to the realization I needed help. And intuitively, I knew I needed to work on myself. Yes, work on myself, but not by myself. So the good news is you don't have to do this on your own. And so I started on my journey to get more heart-centered. I started this never-ending journey called self-development with coaches, mentors, and even mastermind groups and all kinds of courses. So I invested and spent thousands and thousands of dollars. And By invested, I meant meaningful stuff. By spent, I meant gone, because I do have regrets. Yes, I made mistakes. I spent a lot of money on a lot of things. And if I was to go back and do it all over again, I would have been more in tune with investing and listening to my heart than spending because I wanted something. I wanted to buy a result, which ultimately I actually had to put in the time and go through a process, and that does take time. So I'm here today to offer you a faster track to practice success and practice mastery in this podcast called Practice Mastery, your call to greatness. So if you have greatness in your mind, even though it's in less than totally tangible concept right now, I believe that all humans have a desire for greatness, some degree of greatness in something, and you do too. And so that's what we're here to explore in this brand new podcast launching in August 2020. So by the time you hear this, it will probably be launching, as this is the premiere episode of Practice Mastery. So in other words, I realized in order to be happy with my chosen career and personal life, I needed to work on self-mastery, which is different but related to practice mastery. Obviously, I'm suggesting that practice mastery has a lot to do with self-mastery. And we're going to talk about this with our guests of international chiropractors and experts within the industry and related to the industry that are going to share their best secrets to their success through this series of podcasts. I love the fact that I'm on this life journey to better myself, my clients, and my audience. It feels really good. It feels right for me to launch this show right now, and I know I'm in the right place at the right time. Just things fell into place. For about 5 years now, I knew that I wanted to do a podcast and was just putting the things in place. And then I believe the universe kind of dropped a few circumstances and timelines into place, and here we go. And this show is on track with my intention and my goals. That's key too. So it feels right. What about you? How do you feel about your life right now? How do you feel about your clinic and your practice situation? Those are great questions to ask yourself. And you're not necessarily going to get the answers right now, but I hope you're listening to my show and this will help give you clarity, the clarity that you desire. So, why should you listen and subscribe to this podcast? Well, great question. Would you agree, as chiropractors, chiropractic is not always an easy profession to be in. I call it, kind of affectionately, the most misunderstood mainstream healthcare profession today, because there is so much diversity, we tend to confuse the public. And when we confuse the public, they don't decide well. So, and without clear intention and practice mastery, then we tend to try new methods, machines, and mantras to try to please the public and get market share, if you will. I've been there for a long time. We tend to confuse ourselves still to this very day. And without focused intention, my practice was constantly up and down. And I know when I'm not focused, and I need to have that degree of mastery to understand that when I'm not focused, then my intentions are not 100%. And clients, patients feel that. So this podcast will help you get passionate and aligned in your practice, aligned to your practice. What you really want to do is not always evident in what you're doing in practice today. So what do I mean by that? So your intentions might be great. You might be a great chiropractor, but what you what you do and how you show up every day may not be totally congruent with that. So mastery is getting totally congruent and being 100% focused on the client service. I'm very much a client serviced, patient centered chiropractor. I'm hands on, but I do have what I call power tools, some modalities that help me do my work. And that's just modern chiropractic today. So whether your evidence-based practice, patient-centered, maintenance, modalities, wellness-based, or specialized, it doesn't matter what you call it. But this podcast will support you in your practice journey. I'll be hosting interviews with leading industry experts to get their very best secrets to their own success. And from that, I want to give you the gems and for you to listen to the gems as if you're in the front row VIP seating, because that's what a podcast does for you. And this career building podcast is delivered to you in the comfort of your very own front row VIP seat. Imagine that. Practice mastery, your call to greatness for chiropractors. So join me each week in this special place to listen and learn from some of the greatest hearts and minds associated with the chiropractic profession. Here's more of my story. So there are many, many days, years ago, not so much now, when I wanted to quit being a chiro. Actually, I don't think about that now. But I did for a lot of years. And I haven't shared that with a lot of people. But I'd had enough of the fight to be understood by the mainstream medical profession and the public, and just having to work so hard at times and feeling beat up, run down. So the people managing part of what I do as a clinic owner, that's the hardest part. So there are many times that I just struggled and I felt I was done. I was going to pack it in, and I'm glad I didn't. The other thing is, of course, it was my main profession. I was doing well, successful, had a family. I couldn't afford to pack it in. So I plugged on, struggled day by day. Was it difficult? Yeah. At times it was really, really hard. But it's a good thing I didn't quit. I do have some great mentors and chiropractic colleagues that really encouraged me, and I encourage you to do that too. So this Practice Mastery podcast is sort of like having your own mentors that you can call upon just by looking up the podcast that you want to listen to and listen to your favorite one, maybe over and over again, because they support and help you with what you're going through at the time. So I decided to offer up and build my living legacy. So that's what part of Practice Mastery, your call to greatness, is all about. I thought about this for quite some time as I do some coaching of chiropractors and other professionals, actually, business coaching on a very select basis because I still practice full time. But one of my passions is helping people, remember? And so I thought, how can I leverage my time and support chiropractors of all ages and all experience levels without having the bias of whether it be your practice philosophy or what organization you belong to. I want us all to get over that and through that, because this is about mastery of your practice. So through this show, I hope to help you build a stronger, at least participate in building a stronger, more unified chiropractic profession for all of our futures. I'm here to want to contribute to our greater community of fellow chiropractors from around the world. And you're going to get that here on Practice Mastery. Also, I'm here to help you, my colleagues, and other chiropractors just like you to make practice life easier, hopefully easier by learning from some of the best interviewed right here on this show. That's it. This is my welcome episode to my all-new podcast, and this is the world premiere, Practice Mastery, Your Call to Greatness for Chiropractors. Quick summary, it's a weekly podcast. Listen and subscribe. You'll be inspired by candid interviews featuring great international chiropractors and experts in the industry. And also, I'll dig into their stories and find their very best secrets to their success. And I promise you, you're going to get some great gems there because I know a lot of chiropractors and I'm already getting a lot of referrals for who to interview. So the lineup is starting to occur. I know that as a chiropractor, I crave support. We crave support. You can ask for support and listen to the show. I believe we need leadership today, and we thrive with mentorship. So in order to achieve this elusive thing called mastery and greatness, listen to this podcast and subscribe. We all need a bigger and better sense of community, don't we? Especially in these times where everything seems to have changed. So my hope is that this show, Practice Mastery, will serve you to connect you with a greater sense of worldwide community among us, that community of caring and compassionate, kind chiropractors. After all is said and done, I believe that we're all here on this planet. We're all in this together with an opportunity to serve each other and serve our communities with integrity, honesty, and caring. That is mine and your opportunity to leave a great legacy for our families and community. That's what I believe. Remember this. It's a quote that I've held on to for years. It means a lot to me because at times I didn't feel like I want to be a chiropractor. So here goes. You are a chiropractor, nothing more and nothing less. So I leave you with that. That's a wrap for the premiere episode of Practice Mastery, Your Call to Greatness for Chiropractors. I hope that you've enjoyed this show. For show notes, to listen and to subscribe, go to highprofitspractice.com/podcast. Also, remember to rate and review this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. So until next time, you're one step closer to Practice Mastery, Your Call to Greatness. I'm your host, Dr. Alan Chong. See you on the next episode of Practice Mastery Podcast. Bye for now.